Hi friends, welcome to this class. In this class we are going to look at sentence equivalence. We have already looked at the text completion strategy. The same strategy is applicable to sentence equivalence. So let's jump right into the practice problems. So here's the first problem. Please give it a try. Okay, so what are the ideas in this question? So the first idea is sentence structure mirrors thought, and the second idea starts here after the colon. It is little extension of the same idea. It says that the novice writers believe that the more convoluted the structure, the more dash the ideas, right? So it is trying to say that the more complicated or complex the structure, the more something the ideas. So you'll see that both these pieces are trying to bring out the same idea. So what the word here we are looking for should be able to do justice to this idea, to the idea that sentence structure mirrors thought, right? So that means the word here has to be a mirror of convoluted. That means it has to be something like complex or complicated or something like that, right? That will be a mirror image of convoluted. So let's look at the options. Complicated, right on the spot, engaged. No, we are not talking about engage or engaging, so that is not correct. Essential does not mirror convoluted. Fanciful does not mirror convoluted. Inconsequential, in fact it's a negative word. Consequential, we need a word that is something like complex, complicated. We don't need it. Involved, so involved is the correct choice because involved means complex, so we keep this choice. Now look at it, we have only two choices that we have selected and both of them have to be synonyms. So complicated and involved are synonyms in this context, so we'll go with an answer A and F. Let's move to the second one. Please give it a try. What are the two main ideas? Ever a demanding reader of the fiction of others, the novelist Chase was likewise often the subject of dash analysis by his contemporaries. So first of all, Chase was a demanding reader. This is the first idea. Second, similarly, other authors or his contemporaries, it doesn't say other authors, but his contemporaries were also, see, look at this word here, likewise. So whatever Chase did to the fiction of others, so he demanded a lot from the fiction of others. Similarly, his contemporaries also demanded a lot from him, right? So likewise, Chase was the object of something analysis by his contemporaries. So both these ideas are basically the same, right? They are trying to bring about the same idea, and this missing word then has to be a synonym of demanding, correct? So the intended meaning here is ever a demanding reader of the fiction of others, the novelist Chase likewise was often the object of similar demands or similar demanding analysis by his contemporaries. So we are looking for something like demanding here. Okay, let's look at the options now. Exacting, yes, exacting is a synonym of demanding. Exacting means something that is very demanding, so this is a good choice. Copious means plentiful, doesn't go. Respectful, doesn't go. Acerbic, now acerbic is definitely negative, and you can say that anything that is demanding, a demanding analysis can be acerbic, but it is not exactly it's not relating to demanding exactly, so will not use it. Scathing, also scathing and acerbic are similar, but they don't relate to demanding. Meticulous, now meticulous means very carefully done, and it means that it is demanding, right? It does the problem with acerbic and scathing are there are negative words, whereas meticulous can be a negative positive. And in this sentence we are not looking for any specific negative word as such, we are just looking for a word that will do justice to the idea of demanding. So meticulous goes well in this context, so we'll choose this. Now we have two options, exacting and meticulous, both mean demanding, so in that context they are synonyms, so we go with them. So answer is A and F. Let's move to this one, please give it a try. What are the two ideas here? First idea is here, modern agricultural practices have been extremely successful in increasing productivity of crops. This is the first idea. Okay. The second idea is, even with that, yet despite, even with the advances in agricultural practices, heavy use of pesticides dash losses to disease and insect pests are sustained every year. So main thing is, first thing is something positive, advances, and second thing is, this is a pivot word here, yet despite. So we are now introducing an opposing idea. So both these pieces, piece 1 and piece 2 are opposite. So we are highlighting disadvantages of agriculture, advancement in agricultural practices, right? So this missing word is in the second half. So this missing word has to talk about some kind of disadvantage of modern agricultural practice, right? So let's look at the options. Just before we looking at the option, also reread this and you will see that we are something, this missing word has to be something like, yet despite heavy use of pesticides, huge losses and huge losses to diseases and insect pests are sustained every year. So something like huge is what we are looking for. Incongruous, that means something that doesn't fit in a place. No. Reasonable, no. In fact, this has to be a word, something related to huge. Significant. Now significant can be a good synonym for huge in this context. Significant will go here, so we select that. Considerable, yes, considerable again is something similar to significant, so we'll choose that also. Equitable. Now equitable means something that is just. So equitable does not mean huge, so we'll not choose that. Fortuitous again does not mean huge. So we are left with C and D, both are synonyms, they both go in the context, so we use C and D. Let's look at this one. What are the ideas here? As my eyesight began to dash, I spent a lot of time writing about it. This is extraneous, we don't need this. So as my eyesight began to dash, I spent a lot of time writing about it, describing what I saw as I looked through damaged eyes, right? So basically the first idea is, this person has damaged eyes, and second idea is, he began writing to describe his experiences, right? And this is basically the same sentence, both of them together, both of these ideas together trying to bring about one thing. So that means there is this missing space has to be related to damaged eyes, and here it is, as my eyesight began to reduce. So something like reduce is what we are looking for. That is the only type of word that will do justice to damaged eyes, right? So let's look at the options. Deteriorate. So deteriorate, eyesight deteriorates, that means eyesight reduces, so this is the correct option. Sharpen definitely not what we are looking for. Improve, again opposite of what we are looking for. Decline, yes, decline is a good fit. Recover, opposite of what we are looking for. Adjust is not relevant. So we have two options, deteriorate, eyesight deteriorating, and eyesight declining, both of them meaning the same thing and both of them fit in the context, so the answer is B and D. Let's look at this one. What are the ideas? That judges standing in the legal community was shaken by phony allegations and wrongdoing. Okay, so judges' allegations were shaken, okay, by allegations, but it says though, so that means there is there is a different idea that is coming up now, but still his standing at last emerged out something, right? So because we have this though here, both these ideas are opposite, so that means this is an adjective that is going to be opposite of what we would expect if the allegations were true. So that means opposite of, let's say, shaken, right? Although the allegations although because of the allegations the judge's standing was shaken, it finally came out to be unshaken, something like that, right? So it will be stable or victorious, something like that, right? Or clean. So let's look at the options now. Unqualified. Unqualified, does it relate to this judge's standing coming out to be victorious or clean? Not really. Undiminished, yes. So undiminished means it, although it was shaken, it came out to be undiminished. Correct? This makes sense. Undecided, out of context. Undamaged, yes. Undamaged also means that although it was shaken, it came out to be undamaged. So that is correct. Unresolved doesn't make sense in this context. Unprincipled doesn't make sense in this context. So the answers we have is B and D, undiminished and undamaged. Let's put them back here. The judge's standing in the legal community, although shaken by phony allegations of wrongdoing, emerged at last undiminished and undamaged. So the answers here are B and D. Let's look at this one. Okay, first idea is she is dash, right? Her dash should not be confused with miserliness. Okay. Second idea is it should not be, her dash should not be confused with her miserliness, right? So that means this dash, what we are talking about, should be something related to miserliness, first thing, right? And the third idea we have is that is an example. This is the third idea. As long as I have known her, she has always been willing to assist those who are in need. So she is not actually miserly, right? She helps people, and we should when we choose this word, we should also do justice to the idea that she usually helps people in need, right? So before we go to the choices, what kind of words will fit here? For obviously the word has to be something like miserliness, but little softer version of that, because we also have a positive aspect here, correct? So what would those words be? Okay, stinginess is a negative word, so we will not use it. Let's see. No, if you use stinginess is will not be able to do justice to this positive aspect. In fact, it is similar to miserliness, right? Very, very negative. So that is not a good choice. Diffidence, out of context. Frugality is saving money, something similar to miserliness, but not really very negative, because we have to account for this positive aspect also. So this could be a good choice. Illiberality, irrelevant. Intolerance, irrelevant. Thrift is again not spending money, so that is related to miserliness, but it is not very negative. So we have two options now, frugality and thrift. Both, if you put back in the sentence, it means her frugality or thrift should not be confused with miserliness. In fact, she always helps people who need money. Okay, so both these words go in the context. So the answer is C and F. Let's look at this one. Okay, what are the ideas? First idea is there is a plan, and engineers say that that plan would save aquifer by reducing pumping to dash levels. So plan reduces pumping to dash level. That is the first idea. Has passed a government environmental review. Okay, so government it has received a government review, but so that means the second idea is starting now, and that is opposite. But the plan faces opposition from outdoor and environmental groups, but it still has opposition. Okay, so what kind of word would fit here? Right, both these ideas are negatively correlated. So which of the plan which the engineers would save aquifer by reducing pumping to dash level? So the first of all has the word has to be some kind of positive word. Okay, because it is reducing, reducing pumping to some kind of positive level. Why should this be positive? Because it has been passed by the government. Okay, and but it still faces some kind of opposition, but it is, I mean, there is nothing for us to believe that this word has to be negative. In fact, has to be positive because it is passed by the government, but there are some minor issues related to the plan because of which the outdoor environmental groups are opposing it, right? Okay, so let's look at it. Innocuous. Innocuous, yes, it is a positive. Innocuous means harmless. So it is a positive word. It fits in the context. It says the plan which the engineers say will save the yes. Another reason we have to notify this save. Okay, so this, if this plan is going to save, so that means it has to have some positive effect. So that again justifies that this word has to be something positive. So the plan which engineers said would save the aquifer by reducing pumping to innocuous levels has passed a government environmental review. So this in itself makes sense. So that is a good choice to have. Feasible. Okay, feasible, and let's look at this one also. Practical. Both of them mean the same thing, right? So plans are practical and feasible, but are they necessarily positive? We are looking for a positive word. So we are not very sure. They don't always mean positive. Let's keep them for now. Minimal. Now minimal, what would it mean in this context? It would mean that there is a plan that is trying to reduce the pumping to minimum level, but we don't know whether the current state of pumping. So we don't know whether the current state of pumping, whether that requires the plan to reduce pumping to a minimum level. So we don't really know. It is little out of context. We don't have enough information to decide on this. Remedial again would say that there is some problem with the aquifer right now, and we are planning to come out with a plan that will remedy the pumping issue. So we don't really have that much information here. Benign. Now benign means again very soft, harmful kind of a way, and it goes well with innocuous. Both of them there are positive. In fact, if you look at it, there are two pairs of correct answers. In sentence equivalence, we always want to look at synonyms. So there are two pairs, innocuous and benign are synonyms, and feasible and practical are synonyms, right? And these are not really, you can't really take any stand on these two. So now feasible and practical, they are not so good a fit as innocuous and benign, because we know that this has to be a positive word, and innocuous and benign are positive in meaning, whereas feasible and practical are neutral. So we would go with innocuous and benign. The answer would be A and F. So let's look at this one. So what are the main ideas? In some kind of an art, the supposed distinction, so you need to understand, if you notice this word supposed, The supposed distinction between modern and traditional was fabricated by critics. This is the first idea. First one, the critics fabricated. That means they lied, or they kind of created a fake impression that there was a distinction between modern and traditional. So that is why we have this word supposed here. Okay. The second idea is, and when artists have control over interpretation of their own work, but when artists are interpreting their own work, the distinction appears happily to have been something, right? So you will see that even if we don't have any negative pivot word here, there are two different ideas opposing, right? So one is critics say that there is distinction, but the artists say that there is no distinction, right? So the distinction appears to have been something like not there, or something like eliminated or reduced or vanished, something like that. Something that does justice to the ideas that there is no distinction. Correct? Look at the options. Eliminated, yes, this fits in the context. Reinforced, no, we are looking for negative word actually, which will give us the impression that there is no distinction. Put to rest, yes, put to rest means that there is no distinction. Intensified, not correct. Recognized, not correct. Established, not correct. So the only two option choices we have are A and C. Both of them give the impression that when artists control their own interpretation, there is no distinction. The distinction has been eliminated or distinction has been put to rest. So both these words fit in this context. The correct answer is A and C. Look at this one. First thing, there are decades of mismanagement and inefficiency. Right? The company has not been managed properly, and there is a lot of financial inefficiency because we are talking about cash and investors. So there is a lot of financial inefficiency. That is the first part, financial problems. Right? Second part, it says that you ignore those financial problems, and that is the only way you can believe that something good will happen. Right? So that something good will happen is this. Okay, so this part basically tries to say that even only after ignoring these financial problems for decades, you can see that this fresh infusion of cash, that means new cash, would solve the company's problems, right? But look at it carefully. Anything other than, so the second idea collectively should mean something like a good impact, but anything other than a dash solution. So this has to be a word which will fit in this second part and make this part look like a good impact. Okay, so complete, in fact this word has to be negative. It has to be something like anything other than a small solution, or something like that. Anything other than a temporary solution, or anything other than a small solution. So that kind of a word will make this part look like a good thing to have, right? So complete doesn't go here. Fleeting means going past very quickly. Temporary, so that goes in this context. Momentary, again, momentary and fleeting are synonyms, so they are a good pair. Premature solution, that premature solution does not go in this context. In fact, it's kind of an odd to say that a solution is premature, because we don't really know about anything about the solution, right? So this is not a good fit. Trivial, again, it doesn't have any synonym. Total doesn't go. So the only two that we have is B and C. Let's look at this one. Okay, what are the two ideas here? The first one, Government's implementation of a new code of ethics appeared intended to shore up the ruling party's standing with an increasing dash electorate at a time when the party is besieged by charges that it trades favors for campaign money. So first part is the party is besieged by charges of, let's say, corruption. Okay. Second thing, that is why the party is trying to implement a new code of ethics, and it is trying to shore up, that means increase the ruling party standing with an increasingly dash electorate, right? So there is no, both these ideas are similar. So one is a situation, the other one is what the government is trying to do to control the situation. So we need a missing word that will basic word is basically an adjective for the electorate. And what is likely to be electorate means the people who are going to vote for the party. So how are these people? These people are dash, and what is likely word here? When the party is charged with trading favors for campaign money, how is going to be the reaction of its electorate? People are going to be angry, right? And that is why the party is trying to implement a new code of ethics. So that is the whole story here. So we need a word that does justice to this idea that people are not happy or are angry or something like that, are basically not satisfied with the government right now. Okay, so let's look at the options. Aloof does not fit here. Placid means calm. So obviously the people are not going to be calm when the party is doing something like this. So that is not correct. Restive means restless. So this goes well in the context. Skittish also means difficult to control or violent. So both these words fit well in the context. Tranquil is same as placid, so it doesn't go in the context. Vociferous is someone who talks more. That is not relevant here. So we have only two options, restive and skittish, both meaning violent or difficult to control, and both of these words fit in the context. The story will go like this. The government's implementation of new code of ethics appeared intended to increase the ruling party's standing with an increasingly violent or increasingly restless electorate at a time when the party has been charged with corruption. So C and D are the correct answers. Let's look at this. Okay, what are the ideas here? Some of the party supporters charged that the negative report has been motivated by a broader political assault on the company. So this is the first idea. Supporters say that the negative report is motivated by a political assault. And what does it say about the assault? The assault has been designed to help the rivals who would like to see the company dash. So obviously the whole story is from the company supporters point of view. Both of these ideas are positively correlated, and what the supporters are saying is that the negative report is motivated by political assault, and they are trying to help the negative report is designed to help the market rivals who would like to see the company as dash. So this dash obviously has to be a negative word, right? And what kind of word will fit here? It has to be something like go down or some negative impact on the company. Correct. So let's look at the options now. Reined in. So it yes, reined in would bring about a negative impact to the company. So that is a good answer choice. Bolstered is a positive word. We get rid of it. Indemnified is we are not indemnifying the company, or company gets indemnified does not necessarily help market rivals. So that is not the correct answer. Propped up Propped up is again positive, not fitting in the context. Manacled is negative, so we'll keep it. Lionized. So lionized is again, lionized means praised, so doesn't go in the context. The only two options we have in the context is reined in and manacled. Both of them are synonym in this context. If both of them, if we put back here, we get a consistent meaning out of the sentence. So the answer is A and E. Let's look at this one. What are the ideas here? The first idea is former executive has been trying to keep a low profile, right? Since his dash exit from the company. The fact here is that the executive has had a dash exit from the company. So there is no, both these ideas are positively correlated. There is no negative pivot word here. So both are trying to say that one, this is a fact, and this is another fact. Both the facts reconcile with one another, right? So we want to have a word here that will justify the executive keeping a low profile. Okay, so it has to be in something like this meaning of this word would be something like not something that he is going to be proud of. Otherwise, he wouldn't want to keep a low profile. Something like that. Okay. So celebrated, obviously if the exit was celebrated, he doesn't want to keep a low profile. In fact, we are looking for a negative word here. So this is not a good fit. Mysterious. Mysterious is neutral, not necessarily negative word. Right? Long awaited. We don't have anything to believe that the exit was long awaited. We don't know anything about it. Mysterious also, let's keep it for now, but we'll see if we get any better option. Fortuitous means accidental. So accidental, we don't have anything indicating in that regard. Indecorous, it's a negative word. Yes, if the exit was indecorous, then he wants to keep a low profile. Unseemly, yes, it's again a negative word. Unseemly exit would justify the former executive keeping a low profile. So these two answers are correct. Let's come back to mysterious. Mysterious does not necessarily have a negative aspect, so we'll now eliminate it because we have better options. So the correct answers here are if, E and F. Put them back here. It will justify that the executive has been trying to keep a low profile because there is some negative aspect related to his exit from the company, indecorous or unseemly exit. Let's look at this one. First fact is the carbon atom's ability to form an unending series of different molecules. So carbon atoms goes on creating different molecules is the first aspect. Second aspect is some scientists argue that carbon compounds play such a critical role in on Earth because of its possibility of dash. So both these things are trying to bring about the same meaning, right? This is a fact and this is an explanation based out of the fact. So we want to make sure that this missing word is a direct relevance of this carbon's ability to keep on forming unending series of different molecules, right? So let's look at the options. This has to be a result of carbon's ability to form unending series. So diversity is a good fit here. Deviation is carbon's ability to form unending series does not result in deviation. No. Variety and diversity are similar. Variety and diversity is caused because of carbon's ability to form unending series of different molecules. So these are correct. Reproduction. Yes, we are talking about carbon's ability to reproduce, so to speak, but it does not result in reproduction. Stability, it does not result in stability. Invigoration does not result in invigoration. So the correct answers here are A and C. These both are effects of carbon's ability to form an unending series of different molecules, and when we put these words back in the sentence, we get a complete sentence. So the answers here are A and C. Let's look at this one. What is the first fact? First fact is there is a flood of information presented by mass media. So we have flood of information, right? Second, the author says that the only way to keep up with the news is to rely on dash accounts. So author seems to say that there is a lot of information, and the only information, the only way you can get all the information is by relying on dash accounts. So this missing word dash has to somehow, fit with this flood of information aspect, right? We can't really get the meaning out of it. We don't really know what it would mean as such, but it has to somehow relate to flood of information, and as a sentence, when we put that answer back in, it has to make sense. So synoptic means summary of something. So if you put it back here, what it means is there is a lot of information. The only way you can keep abreast of all that information is by looking at the synopsis. This answer now makes sense, right? Abridged, again similar to synoptic. Both these options mean the same thing, and both these options fit in the context. Let's look at other options. Sensational, not relevant. Copious is plentiful. Already you have a lot of information, and the only way to know all the news is by reading more. Something like that the author is saying. It doesn't make sense. Lurid, out of context, and understated, out of context. The correct ones we have here is A and B. Put them back here. We say, given the flood of information today, the only way to keep up with the news is to rely on synoptic or abridged accounts of the news. So this goes in the context. The correct answer is A and B. Let's look at this. First aspect. Though feminist in its implications, Bjorn Reiner's 1974 film. So there is one film that is very feminist in nature. Okay, this person's Bjorn Reiner's film, 1974 film, is feminist in nature. But still, we have a though here, right? But even if that is the case, dash the filmmaker's active involvement in feminist politics. So there is some kind of a verb here, okay, and this verb, when we put in this part of the sentence, the second part of the sentence, it has to show contrast with the feminist implications of the 1974 film, because we have a though here. So we don't really know what this is going to mean. Let's look at the options. Antedated. Now if you write antedated, though feminist in implications, the author's 1974 film antedated, that means preceded the filmmaker's active involvement in feminist politics. Okay, now this makes sense. What it is saying is that the person was made a film in 1974 on feminist issues, but still, she did not enter feminist politics until much later, right? This is what the meaning is coming out of it. So this seems to be a good answer. Okay, cloaked. No, cloaked means hid, right? So cloaked means hid the active filmmaker's active involvement in the feminist politics. So that doesn't do justice to this though part, because this item and this item are not necessarily opposing. So cloaked is not correct answer. Portrayed, again, is not correct answer, because it will not do justice to this though. Preceded and antedated are synonyms, so both have the same logic. They will say that although Bjorn Reiner's 1974 film was feminist, the author did not involve herself in the feminist politics until much later. So both these answers are synonyms and both are correct. Renewed doesn't go, represented doesn't go, right? So the only correct answers are A and D, and the meaning is that though feminist in its implication, the author's 1974 film preceded the filmmaker's active involvement in feminist politics. Let's look at this one. Okay, the first thing here is that this person, Miles Davis, had decided to drop out of schools, okay, and the school used to teach the kind of music that he did not want to play. That is the first part of the sentence, drop out. Okay, and it seems obvious that second part is, it is obvious that his dash of the school which resulted in decision to drop out. Okay, so there was some kind of cause which basically led to his decision to drop out, right? What was that cause? That cause is dash. Okay, what is going to be the meaning of that? It is obvious that Miles Davis dash lack of interest in the school which resulted in decision to drop out was based out of school's training of musicians for a kind of music that he didn't want to play. We don't really know any specific meaning here. We let's in that case we'll have to go with the answers. So we'll just try to fit every answer here and try to see if that makes sense. But it has to be a negative word, because that has resulted into the decision to drop out. It has to be a negative word. Okay, disaffection with this. So Miles Davis disaffection with the school which tried to create musicians for the kind of music that he did not want to play was a decision factor which led him to decide to drop out. So this goes well in the context. It's a negative word, right? It will go in the context. It says that Miles Davis did not really feel that much affection for the school because the school was trying to bring out musicians for different type of music, and then he decided to drop out. So this goes very well in the context. Dislocation of the school, it doesn't sound correct. It's not grammatically correct. Disentanglement from would be freeing away from the entanglements of school. So that does not lead to his decision. That is not correct. Subversion, that means getting subverted into the school, doesn't go in this context. Displacement of school does not go in the context. Estrangement from school, yes, it was estrangement. So he kind of found himself very estranged from the school which was trying to bring musicians for different type of music, and that is why he decided to drop out. So it is again similar in meaning to disaffected with, right? So he did not feel any affection. At the same time, he was getting estranged from the school, and that's why he decided to drop out. So both these answers, A and F, fit well in the context, and we choose them as correct answers. Let's look at this one. Okay, the first idea here is, during the opera's most famous area, the tempo chosen by the orchestra's conductor seemed dash. That means the tempo, that means the speed of the orchestra, tempo was dash, without necessary relation to what had gone before. So the tempo did not relate to earlier part of the opera, right? And both of them trying to positively correlated, both are trying to bring out the same idea. So this word has to do justice to tempo not being able to relate to the earlier part of the opera, right? So it would be something like not in sync with, or something like that. The tempo was not in sync with the other part of opera, or was not harmonious, or something like that. Okay, so let's look at this. Arbitrary. If the tempo was arbitrary, it would mean that it did not relate to the other pieces of our orchestra. So this is a good fit. Capricious. If the tempo was capricious, it was it just depended on the whims and fancies of the orchestra's conductor, and it did not relate to the orchestra. So this also goes well. Cautious. The tempo was cautious, it did not relate to the opera, doesn't go well in the logic. Compelling. The tempo was compelling, it did not relate to the opera, doesn't go well. Exacting. The tempo was exacting, it did not relate to the opera, doesn't go well. Exacting and meticulous, again synonyms. The tempo was meticulous, it did not relate to the opera, doesn't fit in the logic. So the only two options we have is A and B. Both of them say that the tempo was arbitrary or capricious, and that is why it did not fit with the other pieces of orchestra. But they both go well in the context, and we choose them as correct answers. Let's look at this one. Okay, so the first idea is, so there was an exhibition of some painter, retrospective exhibition. Okay, so apparently no, of exhibition of old paintings maybe. So retrospective exhibition seems too much like special pleading. Okay, so someone is trying to plead for the forgotten painter who was real but had dash talents. Okay, so the painter was real, that means there is some good aspect, but he was dash. So this dash is going to be a negative word, right? Because real is a positive word, correct? So he was good, he was a real painter, but he was something negative. Okay, the second idea is the exhibition itself was overlarge, uneven, and ultimately disappointing. So the exhibition was negative, something that the author did not like. It was overlarge, it was uneven, it was ultimately disappointing. Okay, so again we are looking for a word that is negative. Okay, not necessarily very negative, because this painter was really a real painter as such. I mean, we can assume that he was good in painting, but there is some negative aspect which ultimately resulted into the exhibition being very negative or untimely disappointing. Okay, so limited, yes, limited would probably fit in this context, because limited is a negative word, right? And the painter was real but limited in his talent. Okay, and that is why the exhibition was overlarge, uneven, and ultimately disappointing. So this goes well in the context. Partial, we don't know, because the painter was real but partial. He had partial talents, and that is why the exhibition was disappointing. So it doesn't really go, partial talent doesn't go well as such. So we'll keep it for now. Let's see if we have any better option. Undiscovered talents. Obviously we are talking about paintings and exhibitions, so the talent is not undiscovered, so that is wrong. So circumscribed, it is a synonym of limited, so it will go in the context. It's again a negative word. Prosaic means dull talent doesn't go well. Okay, hidden talent does not necessarily indicate that the exhibition was disappointing, so that is also not a good fit. So we have two synonyms here, limited and circumscribed, A and D, that basically fit in this context. They say that the forgotten painter was real, he had good talents, he had real talent, but his talent was very limited, and that is why the exhibition was overlarge, uneven, and ultimately disappointing. So the answer is AD. So with that, I thank you for watching the video. I hope you learned a good deal about sentence equivalence, and I look forward to meeting you in the next class. Thank you.